Welcome back, everyone. Welcome back to the Word Traction podcast. Going to try to keep it short because I just realized that I'm being invaded by people in neighboring properties with large farm machinery, and it may get a little bit loud, so my patience is going to dwindle as quickly as Donald Trump's did on this past weekend in Wisconsin. A couple quick updates, of course. We had your boy Graham Plattner was victorious in Maine, so we have to in the "be careful what we wish for" category. He is going to. There's going to be a very dirty battle with Susan Collins for the Maine senatorial supremacy, but we have 5 months to enjoy all of the stories that are going to be generated about the evils of Graham and the fidelity of Susan Collins, because the Republican, the RNC is going to be chucking big gobs of money, lots of special interest groups, and everybody else that Donald Trump tells to send money to save Susan Collins, which they don't love her, but they need the win, just as we do as well. Um, FIFA. That's our normally the corrupt. Thank you for pointing out that ordinarily the Corrupt Connections podcast is a Thursday joint, and this I have it on pretty good authority is Wednesday. But FIFA is our first game here in the United States is on Friday, and the tournament starts before then in Canada and in Mexico. Just wanted to jump in and share a couple thoughts about the delightful levels of corruption. If you take Johnny Infantini, the head of Infantino, excuse me, the head of FIFA, and Donald Trump, they are, if not the two most corrupt business people and political leaders in on the planet, they're in the running. Johnny, you will recall, invented a trophy out of whole cloth when DJT was sad and grieving over the fact that he didn't get the Nobel Peace Prize, which he should never get, of course. But Johnny, as head of FIFA, developed the first annual FIFA Peace Prize, which isn't worth the weight that it is, whatever the material, gold plated, whatever. But we know that Trump likes trinkets and he likes people licking his boots and other things. And so Johnny knows exactly how to play Donald. That's because Donald, essentially, the perhaps distasteful title of the podcast is Trump invites FIFA to raw dog the U.S. And that's essentially what any country that wins the right to host a FIFA event is essentially selling out its populace for the glory and the promise of riches that never come. The only, our country could have been set up to be could have set up to be an extraordinarily profitable event for US business owners. It will be enormously profitable for FIFA and for Trump. That goes without saying. But if you look back in the history, the only one that probably turned a profit on par with what was promised was Germany, and that was 20 years ago. Because you have a country that has the infrastructure in place, so you're not forcing states, cities, municipalities to build these monuments to stupidity, like Brazil. You know, Brazil built all of those stadia, and Brazil is a football slash soccer mad country. That is the game. It is, the home to Pele. and they have, I think they said one of them currently is being used as a bus terminal, and the rest of them sit empty. And so you have these monstrous facilities that have to be the cost of maintenance goes on for decades after FIFA has left, and most countries don't have uh, a logical way to use those facilities, not even profitability, but just to break even. It just doesn't work out, and so FIFA is the gift that never ends up giving. Right? But here it's particularly special because what Trump has done, we've heard the stories. If you've not been following, the Trump administration excluded fans from many countries that they already have grievances against. Uh, I'm going to suggest that you do as I will, and I'm going to adopt a team. I'm going to adopt Haiti because they have been perhaps the most slandered country in the last since the last election, and eating the cats, the dogs, and all of that bullshit. And they made FIFA. This should be their glory, and that of their fans. Their fans aren't even being allowed to come, except for the super wealthy, of course, will be able to call up Trump and make a side deal and pay him some money. The Trump administration started out by their workaround was to require every visitor with a ticket from a banned country would have to put down a $15,000 cash deposit, and that money would be refunded to them, or purportedly would be refunded to them only if they kept their once they left the country on time after the game. If they overstayed their visa for the express purpose of participating in FIFA, then they would lose the deposit and be subject to arrest. Now, there is a truck right down the street. I'm going to let it go by because, yeah, it sounds like it's moving away from my current location. So, my apologies. Of course, once the $15,000 is in the hands of the Trump family, the chances of getting it back are probably pretty slim. But there's also a new sheriff in town when it comes to FIFA. What Trump has done is he has assembled a hit squad. Obviously, Mark Wayne Mullen. Hope they're leaving. Sounds like they're leaving. Uh, Mark Wayne Mullen. There are illustrious plumber adjacent head of DHS has been talking about, well, we're going to have our men on the street because we want to fight counterfeiting. Uh, you know, uh, of course, you go to any grand sporting event, World Series or Super Bowl or FIFA World Cup or UEFA. UEFA, we're going to come back to. And of course, just like in New York City, back in the day, you would have gentlemen, perhaps from Nigeria and other places, with authentic Gucci bags for a few dollars on the street. And of course, there's counterfeiting going on. But if that's what we're going to have, these poorly trained, armed, masked bandits that killed two Americans, they're going to be on the street under the guise of enforcing counterfeit product counterfeiting on the streets of America as a guise to getting their nose all up in your business. The absurdity knows no bounds. But all they have to do is declare it an emergency that we're being invaded by a lot of black and brown people for World Cup. And you can see how that's going to go with the Trump administration, the racists, and the masks are on, but the hoods will remain in place. The white hoods will remain in place too. So good times for that. As I confessed, I would not be attending a game there was initially I'm kind of waiting a moment because another truck has pulled up across the street. Part of the risk of enforcing my all outside, I think since Christmas, I've been outside in the snow and all that other fun stuff, is that I love the fresh air and it's something a little bit different. Now, there's a risk to it that, drone warfare, that I could be assailed by a drone or other risks. And the more common is a truck. That sounds kind of like a trash removal vehicle. So my apologies, but they do tend to work swiftly and move along. Yeah. So the the assassins uh, team that they put together is led by none other than, wait for it, the son of Rudy Giuliani. Right? So this is Andrew Giuliani. And what he's going to oversee is a group of political appointees and Trump loyalists that are going to be a roving gang of um, of collectors and leg breakers that are going to travel around from venue to venue and make sure that the Trump administration gets to pocket as much coin as they can off of this wonderful festival that is the World Cup. I'm not trying to make Trump out to be more corrupt than FIFA itself, but they're on an equal playing field. They're both they are so far ahead of they have lapped the field, those two groups. And so this handpicked crew, the that plan to charge a $15,000 cash deposit for each visitor from one of the quote unquote banned nations, meaning visitors coming hoping to see fans hoping to see their teams succeed or play, at least those from Iran for obvious reasons, Haiti for very racist reasons, and then Ivory Coast, Cote d'Ivoire, and maybe Senegal. There were four that were featured prominently in the article I read last night. That those were the visitors that you have bona fide travel arrangements, you are a ticket holder, and they were still going to try to bang them up for 15 grand, hoping that people would overstay their visa. They could arrest them, bump up their quota, and have 15,000 cash without the formality of a kava bag. Sounds like a good deal, right? So, and just not to be outdone, Johnny Infantino had a lawsuit dropped on him about 2 days ago by one of his former co-conspirators at UEFA when they were there. What this man Michel is alleging that Infantini had a smear campaign in order to gain the position that he ended up gaining as head of FIFA. It's a license to print money and reward your family. So Michel is, last name is like, it sounds like Panini, but it's not. Anyways, we'll call him MP. Dropped just to hopefully maximize the embarrassment right before the World Cup started, and to take advantage of the publicity. He dropped a suit on Infantino's head, which is delightful. 50 people were sanctioned or arrested or charged after in Trump 1.0 for fraud, all related to FIFA. And almost every one of them has successfully been pardoned by the Trump administration, means that he's pocketing there too. His take from the games is not limited to what goes on the field and the hot dogs that are being sold, but Trump is extorting the pay to play, get out of jail free card program that he's running quite successfully here without any soccer/football involved. It's truly magnificent. So you have the Iranians have to commute in from Mexico because Trump refused to host them here in the country. He's eliminated the most decorated and well thought after referee on the entire continent of Africa, merely because he has the indignity to have been born in Somalia and because Trump is a racist and also has had his feelings hurt by Somalians. He has chosen to victimize them as a distraction in in Minnesota, Minneapolis specifically, after they killed in cold blood, murdered two Americans. That's ICE officers did, and they've been lying about that case, unwilling to provide any information for a state investigation into any of those Renee Good or Alex Preddy investigations. They are stonewalling the state investigators, and in fact, they are smearing the reputation of both of those individuals in order to hopefully exercise their own MAGA base to suggest that they were in some way responsible in being murdered by Trump's ICE officers. It's it's a game that he plays all the time, and we saw that again going back to that Ms. Welker in Washington. In the rain under a tin roof and that whole miserable debacle this past weekend, where Trump lost his cookies and said, "Thank you, darling," and I'm leaving. And just it's on repeat. The what got him, I mean, what gets him upset on any given day, it's hard to tell because it seems like everything, thin-skinned and declining mental acuity. But all he was being asked to do was to speak about truth and facts. And he's not prepared to do that because he's built his entire, house of cards on the bill of goods that he sold to MAGA voters, that the election in 2020 was stolen from him. It's all about him and not from the American people. And of course, there isn't any proof of that, but there has been some discussion that there is in fact evidence within the voter data from Fulton County, Georgia, but that evidence would implicate Donald Trump and his team's interference in that election. Those are the vote, on the date of he was asking the Secretary of State in Georgia to find him those extra votes. And now it comes to light that they had already manipulated the votes, Trump, Putin, and their organizations in Pennsylvania, Florida, specifically St. Lucie County. We'll have more on that as the week progresses. Very, very troubling proof about votes cast by people that either live in a home now, but that home didn't exist at the time of the elections. Pre-sales Florida, as you know, in the real estate. If you have ever had any interest in the real estate business in Florida, boom and bust. But sometimes entire developments are built on spec, and an entire community might be quote unquote sold, but they haven't even wired and done the plumbing yet, and nobody certainly is living there. And people are voting in snowbirds that are voting in Massachusetts and Michigan and in other places that their names were scraped and used as ghost voters in Florida and in Pennsylvania and other places. But we'll more on that in the not too distant future. It's very concerning, and It's a concerted effort by the Republican establishment, led by Trump, supported by none other than Vladimir Putin, who he, he's not only the godfather, but as we've talked about going back to the genesis of Project 2025, Republican lawmakers and Heritage Foundation traveled to Hungary to learn, essentially from the Putin playbook, how to do Project 2025. And they learned the lesson very well because that's what we're living through right now. It's not fanciful thinking. It's not an AI hallucination. It is proven fact. And if you have any doubt, just listen to before the election of 24. Listen to Russ Vogt and other members of the Project 2025. Or if you can read, then just read the document because it spells out exactly what they're intending to do and their strike rate on particular goals to disrupt elections and take all of the cops off of the beat, rhetorically, in in the federal government. All of the attorneys, as many of the inspectors general, not attorneys general, the inspectors general, as they possibly can, and the lawyers that are working in each of the individual agencies losing their jobs and not being replaced, or being replaced, 1 for 10 by a Trump loyalist. And as we've learned watching the courts, the people that the Trump administration is hiring to do these jobs, to operate as lawyers in the wider federal DOJ, the attorneys general and uh, their employees are getting. At first, they were laughed out of court, and now the judges are getting pissed because Trump is not only, the breakdown of the rule of law has been clear for more than a year, but and that's part of the plan. But what they're also doing is by design, they're gumming up the works. It's not a legal term. What they're doing is they're filing. You've heard the stories about uh, Trump attorneys filing briefs, responses, or other with citations, references to other cases that are wholly made up. Now, and oftentimes these proud young Trumpy mega attorneys are saying, "Well, we can't help it if the AI hallucinated." I said, "Well, yeah, it's your fucking job to check your work." And the judges are just, their caseload is stacked up because of all of the silliness. And Trump, I've said before in many earlier episodes, what pisses me off most is he's lighting so much of our own personal time on fire. Again, by design, not an accident, but as time is not hope you're sitting down. That time is actually the only thing that has any value anymore. And if Trump is lighting all of your time on fire, chasing little fires that he sets on purpose all around the country, then even though you can see it, you saw the playbook, it's by design, it doesn't change the fact that there are only 24 hours and he's taking 19 and a half of them. And the Republican Party is too. So let's reward them for that at the ballot box and do all the things that are necessary, as we've talked about before. Now that we're, under 5 months out, we can say, can you say to yourself, I have confirmed that I am properly registered to vote in the jurisdiction where I now reside, where I am a legal resident? Okay. Have I, in fact, indicated through .com or gone to my local clerk's office if you're old school, and indicated that I want to receive a vote by mail, mail in ballot for all future elections. Okay. While you're there, you can talk and say, hey, have there been any changes to the requirements about identification while casting a vote either by mail or at the polling place? Thank you. There haven't. Okay, we're in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And of course, things will be a little bit more sensible here than they are in Texas when they are just trying to fulfill the whims of Donald J. Trump and steal elections. But you have to operate as if you have to operate under the assumption that some version of the SAVE Act may be allowed by the Supreme Court really close, you know, forget about the, Purcell principles, Purcell doctrines, or otherwise, that changes won't be made close to elections. They've already blown that shit way out of the water, right? So you have to plan as if, right? I live by the sea. I think my seawall is fine, but they just forecast a tsunami. Therefore, what do late breaking story, strategy changes based on new and verified information. You have to plan as if they will do disruptive things to the election process. So, have you, when you look at let's talk about three forms of identification. And now, what does this have to do with FIFA? Well, they may be asking you for all three of them when you're trying to get into the game, but we don't know that yet because the first game hasn't kicked off, or whatever the fuck you do with a soccer game hasn't begun. Um, yeah. So, certified copy of your birth certificate, right? What is certified? It is ordinarily a raised, embossed impression in the paper itself, or otherwise a stamp, kind of like a notarization that that a local community officer in the jurisdiction where you were born attests to the fact that the certificate of live birth is not a fake, right? So, do you have that? If you don't get it, you can get it online. It's easy, and we talked about this almost 6 months ago now. But that doing that one thing, the average cost of those, it's $12, something like that. So just do it. So, yeah, well, I'm not a woman, and I'm not likely to be remarried, and I'm not going to change my name in any case. So why would I need that? Why do you need it? Because we're dealing with, an antagonistic regime at the head of the US government that is going to try to do everything to disqualify voters before the election even occurs, before the election ever occurs. So prepare as if. The second part, the real ID. That is either your driver's license or the state ID equivalent of a driver's license, state or commonwealth. Is your real ID valid through? Does it have your current address? And is it valid through, let's say, through the end of year 2028? Because I'm thinking about the next general election. If you need to update it, make sure it's updated through that date. If it's, if it's, you said, well, it's valid 4 days following the 2026 midterm elections. Not good enough, because there's nothing that says that the vote won't be some way altered or delayed or otherwise. So plan as if. And then there's the expensive, unfortunate, perhaps not inevitability, not reality, but there is the passport, which is the undeniable federal identification that would work in what we assume would be any case as proper identification for voting. But of course, Not everybody has a passport. Not everybody's passport is valid. And if you don't have one, it costs. I didn't update this in 2026, but last year, the cost of updating or getting the cost of getting a new non-expedited passport is 165, which is not nothing, right? And that's part of the calculation too. If Trump would be delighted if the court or other regular, if the court would back his contention that if you don't have a valid passport, you can't vote. It won't come to that. But because of all of the things on in the basket of things that are characterized as I didn't think it would come to this. Trump's got a bunch of that, so we have to prepare as if. And so the last thing on the election sidebar that I'm doing here is, yeah, it's 5 months down the line. If you are a driver with reliable transportation and you know all the answer to all of the previous questions is yes, undoubtedly, and you vote at your kid's former local elementary school that's 1.7 miles down the street, and that's where I've been voting forever, right? You're confirming at the time that you talk to your local clerk or on the website or wherever that voting location is still a valid voting location for November of 2026 because they're going to be trying to pull drop boxes. You know, our local drop box is in front of the fire station, which kind of gives it that cloak of added security. That you know who's going to fuck with something when the firemen are going to come out and beat my ass if I look sideways at a voter drop off box. But they are, and they already have pulled a whole bunch of boxes to make it harder to vote. And in many communities, not here where I live, but they have pulled so many of them that there will be confusion, people that aren't doing the homework that you're doing. And all of a sudden it's, summer's over, kids are back to school, you get through hurricane season, you get through Halloween, and all of a sudden it's time to vote. And I don't have the ID and I don't even know where to go. So I'm going to just take this one off, right? Because hey, it's only the midterm in any case. So what does it matter? Right. So again, that's what they're counting on, right? Voter disinterest, voter confusion. And they will be doing 99 other things between now and then to make that a very real issue. So, yeah. So enough of my, I'll say politely, enough of my preaching on being prepared for the midterms. But I'm going to do it again. I am. Uh, I've been on this for over since Trump's return to power, because this is the disruption. Not knowing what it is, yeah. I mean, they can surprise us. They're inventive, and we make a mistake as progressive Democratic Party stalwarts and say, they're too fucking stupid to figure out ingenious ways to take away our franchise. But they're doing it all the time, all the time. And they're going to do it again. Ways that you could never imagine. Will they keep being attacked? Will they think of new, novel ways to distract us? Yes, I've put forth some of them in this here feed, including my not quite conspiracy theories regarding Taiwan in October, when the weather is nice and U.S. military drills are going to be going uh, uh, on and around the coast of Japan, and the other two what I call stratagems, not conspiracies, are the what Trump is going to still utilize, weaponize, or other the War Powers Act to give him if not graceful, at least an expeditious exit from his misery in the polls related to Iran. where he just uses that war power resolution that finally reaches his desk. He said, "Well, you're going to find this hard to believe, but I hear you now, and I understand the error of my ways. I am instructing Pastor Pete Hegseth and his acolytes and disciples to withdraw all U.S. forces from the Persian Gulf effective tonight. My name is Donald J. Trump. I am against foreign wars, and that's why I heard you, my loyal MAGA voter. Please support my candidates at the polls in the midterm. Even though I'm not on the ballot, it will feel like I am because my bearded masked bandits will be at every voting station. And when you see them, just think of me and vote the right way. You hear me? Yeah, we love you. That's another one. And we in the middle stratagem, the lunch on the 3-meal program, of course, has to do with what the Supreme Court is going to do with birthright citizenship in order to give, quote unquote, give a victory to Democrats and progressive causes to rule to protect birthright citizenship, which Trump will be jumping up and down before the vote. And when the decision comes in, he will be screaming like a little child after it comes in. The Supreme Court, many of which I appointed to this here court, has betrayed me, has betrayed our cause. They're enemies of the U.S. people. John, you understand? I'm just doing. It's the fix is already in. The decision has already been made. Just like the tariff case, everybody knew, including Trump, that Trump was going to lose that case to provide cover, plausible deniability to John Roberts, and this will be on repeat in the birthright citizenship, and that's how they keep their dream alive. Our nightmare allows Trump that small amount of independent voters that are on the fence. So, oh my, Mary Lou, did you see that the price of gas, I'm talking about October, the price of gas is back down to normal. Eggs are cheap. So Donald loves us, and he's finally focusing on affordability. So he deserves his candidates deserve our, that's my concern, is there are so many levers he can pull with a tame new head of the Fed and Kevin Warsh, and all of the other levers he can pull and manipulate things in the economy. The gas prices are going to remain high because of the extended closure in the strait. But he can work around the edges in order to steal back enough votes. So, so FIFA final, if you're watching a lot of the games, God be with you. If you're watching if I'm probably going to dip in and out on a couple, would I like to see the U.S. do well? Of course, I'm an American. Would I like to see, think about this. How about England against U.S. in the U.S., the former tyrants and overlords beating up on the colonists? That would be a fantastic story. Nothing to do with Trump, right? Because everybody hates him in those two places, or except for the redheads. So yeah. So Infantino, dirty as can be, dirty hands, going to get him all over the U.S. The the hit squad, right? The lead man, the head sheriff on the hit squad is Rudy Giuliani's son. Rudy was sick recently. We want to wish, as a human, I wish Rudy Giuliani nothing but good health, but stay the fuck out. And to his son, good health to you and your children. Stay the fuck out. And the rest of us will just try to be patriots and do what we can to vote in early and often if you're in Chicago, but early otherwise. And thank you very much. Enjoy the World Cup. I will perhaps revisit that, and will tomorrow be another corrupt connections? Of course, there's enough corruption to go around, but we'll see what happens. The markets are a little bit spicier they were this morning, and there are lots of other things going on in the world. There's the second and third order effects of Graham Plattner, and I haven't done a full review of all other voting that happened yesterday because life. And yeah, so thank you, and kindly restack, retweet, and subscribe, and we will be back with you in some form at some time tomorrow. Thank you very much. Okay, no idea the button. So we're going to stand up. I'm grateful for the neighborhood workers taking a break with the heavy machinery. So thank you for that. Hold on, please. Oh shit. Hmm.